The champagne flute felt cold and useless in my hand. Across the room, Marcus was a silhouette against the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Tribeca loft, the glittering grid of New York below him doing nothing to warm the space between us. His phone was glued to his ear, his voice a low, professional murmur. Understood. The numbers need to be finalized before the Tokyo Open. Yes, I'll be on the call. He finally glanced at me, offering an apologetic grimace that didn't reach his eyes. Baby, I am so sorry. It's the Hong Kong merger. They're having a crisis. I have to hop on this video conference. It could be hours. I set the flute down on a sleek side table with a sharp click. It's Christmas Eve. Marcus, you promised my parents dinner at their place. He crossed the room, his hands landing on my shoulders, his familiar citrus and sandalwood cologne enveloping me. I know, and I hate it, but this is the big one. Amanda, the one I've been working towards. A few more months of this grind, and we can buy that house in the Hamptons, have the wedding on the beach, everything. He kissed my forehead. You go. Give my sincerest apologies to Richard and Catherine. Tell them I'm devastated. I'll make it up to everyone tomorrow. I swear. The argument was old and tired. Work always won. The future, he painted, the house. The beach wedding, was the carrot he'd been dangling for the last 6 months. Ever since the once-in-a-lifetime deal landed on his desk. I was too drained to fight. The loneliness had become a constant. Quiet hum. Fine, I said, the word flat. Don't work all night. I'll try not to. Love you. He was already turning back to his laptop. The cab ride to my parents' townhouse on East 74th felt longer than usual. The city was a whirl of lights and last-minute shoppers. A cheerful spectacle that just emphasized my hollow mood. I'd turned 25 last month. I had a job I liked at a small but respected gallery in Chelsea, a fiancé who was a rising star at his hedge fund, and a family name that opened doors. By all accounts, I was living the dream. So why did it feel like I was perpetually on the outside? Looking in, Jeffries, our longtime butler, opened the massive oak door with a warm smile. Miss Amanda, a bit late. They've just gone in to dinner. The house was a masterpiece of understated holiday decor, tasteful garlands. A towering spruce in the grand foyer decorated with heirloom ornaments. The scent of pine and beeswax polish. Laughter and the clink of crystal drifted from the formal dining room. I slipped off my coat, handing it to Jeffries. No Marcus tonight? He asked gently. Work emergency, I muttered, avoiding his knowing eyes. I paused at the dining room entrance. The scene was a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. If Rockwell painted the 1%, my father, Richard Walker, sat at the head of the long mahogany table, carving the prime rib with theatrical precision. My mother, Catherine, was the picture of elegant hostess, her smile radiant as she listened to my brother Jason recount some story. His wife, Sophie, elegant in emerald green, laughed politely, a hand resting on her not yet visible baby bump. They looked perfect, complete. My empty chair beside Sophie felt like an accusation. Ah, the prodigal daughter arrives. My father boomed, his voice filling the room. And without her better half. I see. Marcus sends his deepest apologies. A last-minute crisis with the Hong Kong deal. I said, sliding into my seat. The lie tasted bitter. On Christmas Eve, Jason smirked, swirling his Bordeaux. Sounds like someone's avoiding the Walker family interrogation. Jason, don't be cruel, my mother chided, but her eyes held a flicker of something. Disappointment? We're just glad you're here. Darling, how is the gallery? It's fine. Quiet. I accepted a plate from the server. The food looked exquisite and utterly unappealing. The conversation swirled around me. Why father's golf game? Jason's latest triumph at his venture capital firm. The architect they'd hired for the Southampton house renovation. the names of schools being considered for the unborn baby. It was a liturgy of affluence and expectation. I contributed monosyllables. My engagement ring, a flawless 3-carat oval, felt heavy on my finger. So, Amanda, my father said, fixing me with his steel blue gaze, have you and Marcus given any more thought to the prenup? My guy can have a draft to his lawyer by the end of next week. I stiffened. We've talked about it. Dad, Marcus doesn't think it's necessary. He says his prospects are his own. Jason barked a laugh. Oh, I bet he does. Listen to the man. Amanda, it's not about mistrust. It's about protecting what's yours. Specifically, what grandmother left you. A cold trickle ran down my spine. The trust, the ever-present, rarely discussed elephant in the room. A multi-million-dollar nest egg from my maternal grandmother, locked away until I turned 28. With my parents as co-trustees, it was the fuel for 1,000 gold digger jokes from Jason over the years, and the unspoken reason behind my father's sudden, intense interest in my fiancé's finances. My trust is my business. Jason, I said, my voice tighter than I intended. It's family business. My father corrected calmly, cutting into his meat, a significant asset. We just want to ensure it's managed wisely, especially if you're going to be merging your life with someone. Due diligence is key. Marcus is not a risk. I snapped. Everyone is a risk until proven otherwise. He replied. The finality in his tone ended the discussion. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of strained politeness. I felt like a specimen under a microscope. My mother's attempts to steer the conversation to wedding colors felt forced. Sophie kept giving me sympathetic little glances that only made me feel worse. I was suffocating. I have a bit of a headache, I announced before dessert was served. I think I'll go lie down in my old room for a bit. Of course, dear, my mother said, her concern seeming genuine for a moment. Shall I have Lillian bring you some tea? No, I'll be fine. Just need some quiet. My childhood bedroom was a time capsule of tasteful privilege. Cream walls, a canopy bed, shelves of leather-bound classics I'd barely touched. It didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a guest room in a very expensive museum. I kicked off my heels and sank onto the window seat, looking out at the quiet, snowy street. The loneliness from Marcus's apartment had followed me here and metastasized into something darker, a profound sense of disconnection. On an impulse, I pulled out my phone, maybe seeing their faces, hearing their voices in a more intimate setting would bridge the gap. I opened a video call to my mother. It rang several times before connecting. The video was shaky at first, then cleared. My mother's face filled the screen. But the background wasn't the dining room's warm wood paneling. It was the cold, serious shelves of my father's private study, 2 rooms away. Amanda? Her voice was a whisper, her eyes wide. The usual softness was gone, replaced by sheer, unvarnished panic. Mom, are you okay? Why are you in Dad's study? Sure, she hissed, her face moving closer to the screen. Her pupils were dilated pools of black. She glanced frantically over her shoulder. Amanda, listen to me. Don't say a word. Just listen. A chill, colder than the winter outside, seized my chest. What's going on? You can't stay here tonight. Do you understand? You need to leave. Go back to your apartment. Her words were a rapid, desperate stream. Go out to the living room right now. Act normal. Tell your father you're not feeling well, that you need him to drive you home. Right now. Don't ask questions. Don't talk to anyone else. Just get your father alone and make him take you home. Mom, you're scaring me. What is this? There's no time. Her voice cracked. It's about your trust. It's about Marcus. They're not. God. Amanda, just go. And don't trust. The screen jostled violently. I heard a door handle rattle in the distance on her end. Her face went pale as bone. He's coming. Remember, your father. Take you home. Now, the call went dead. I sat frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs. My mother's terror was a living thing, transmitted through the digital signal and into my veins. Your trust. Marcus, don't trust. The cozy, familiar room suddenly felt alien and threatening. I had to move. Act normal. I stood on trembling legs, my mind racing. I needed a reason to get my father alone, away from Jason and Sophie. My abandoned dinner, my headache. That would work. I was about to head for the door when I remembered her urgency. Don't stay here tonight. What if I couldn't convince him to take me? What if I had to leave on my own? I needed options. Cash. Cards were traceable. Jewelry. I moved to the closet where I kept a few old things. In the back, on the top shelf, was a small, unassuming leather box. My grandmother's final gift to me, given on her deathbed when I was 16. For your independence, my darling, she'd whispered. Inside, nestled on dark velvet, was the Walker Rose set, a stunning art deco diamond necklace and matching drop earrings. Not the showy pieces my mother wore to galas, but rarer, more valuable. My father had always insisted they were too much for a girl my age and had suggested they remain here. Safe. Now, that felt sinister. I grabbed the box and shoved it into my small evening bag. It was a reckless, stupid thing to do, but my mother's warning had stripped away all reason. This was my lifeline. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dim and quiet. I could still hear the faint murmur of conversation from the dining room. I forced my feet to carry me toward it, my heels silent on the thick runner. I was almost at the arched entrance to the living room, which connected to the dining room, when I heard my father's voice. It was low, measured, and coming from the library just off the living room. The door was slightly ajar. I caught a glimpse of my brother Jason's profile. Instinct screamed at me to keep walking, to announce my presence, but my mother's terror held me rooted. I pressed myself against the cool wall, just out of sight. The clauses are ironclad, my father was saying, his voice devoid of its usual dinner table bonhomie. It was cold, analytical, the voice he used for boardroom takeovers. She gets full control at 28. No stipulations, no oversight. Catherine's mother saw to that. So we can't touch it at all. Jason's voice was tense, frustrated. Not unless she voluntarily relinquishes control, which she won't, or unless a court deems her unfit to manage her own affairs. That requires a significant, documented event, a pattern of instability, which is where our golden boy comes in. Jason said, a nasty edge to his words. Our golden boy. Marcus. My blood turned to ice. Precisely, my father replied. There was a soft clink, like ice in a glass. His role is to precipitate the event, the breakdown, the indiscretion, something public, something messy, something that clearly demonstrates poor judgment and emotional frailty. And he's on board with this? Completely? He's motivated. The bonus he receives upon successful facilitation is more than he'd make in a decade at that fund. Plus, we'll grease his path to whatever venture he wants next. He understands the stakes. He's a professional. The world tilted. The floor seemed to fall away. I clutched the doorframe for support, my knuckles white. Professional. The word echoed in the hollow space where my heart had been. Marcus. My Marcus. His late nights. His absences. His perfect, patient manipulation. It was all a job. And the timeline? Jason pressed. The pressure needs to increase after the holidays. The engagement is the perfect cover. Closer proximity. Shared finances. More opportunities for incidents. The trust fund matures in under 3 years. We need her declared unfit well before then. The ideal scenario is a voluntary committal to a private facility for rest, after which, as her trustees and closest family, we would, of course, assume full management of her assets. Jesus. Dead, Jason muttered, but there was no horror in it. It was calculation. And Mom? She's compliant? A long pause. Your mother understands the necessity. The alternative is bankruptcy, scandal, losing everything. This is for the family. Jason, for your child's future. Amanda will be taken care of in a comfortable facility. She'll be safe, and the family legacy will be preserved. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick with poison. My father, my brother, they were discussing my destruction with the clinical detachment of surgeons planning a resection, and my mother compliant. Her warning hadn't been to save me from some unknown threat. It was a guilty, panicked attempt to get me away from the implementation of the threat. The trust. It had always been about the trust. And Marcus was the hired scalpel. Nausea rose in my throat. I swallowed it down. A burning acid of betrayal and terror. Act normal. Why mother's words came back. Now twisted and dark. I had to get out. Now, I forced myself to step away from the wall, to walk into the living room, making enough noise to be heard. The conversation in the library ceased abruptly. I entered the dining room. They were all there, sitting amidst the ruins of the feast. My father looked up, his face instantly smoothing into a mask of paternal concern. Feeling better? Sweetheart? No, I said, and the tremor in my voice was real. I let it work for me. Actually, the headache's worse. I think it might be a migraine coming on. The lights. I gestured weakly. I really need to go home and lie down in my own bed. My mother, pale as her porcelain dinner plate, stared at me. Her eyes were pleading, screaming with unspoken words. Nonsense. My father said, his voice gentle but firm. You can stay in your old room. Lillian can fetch you some medicine. Dad, please. I met his gaze, trying to project a child's vulnerability, not a victim's dawning horror. It's really bad. I just want my own apartment. Could you drive me? I don't think I can manage a cab right now. I played my only card, the one my mother had told me to use. Please? He studied me for a long moment. I saw the calculation in his eyes. Pushing too hard might seem suspicious. A minor concession now could maintain the illusion of normalcy. Finally, he sighed, the picture of a reluctantly indulgent parent. Of course, sweetheart, if you're sure. He stood, dropping his napkin on the table. Jason, you and Sophie enjoy the rest of the evening. Catherine, I'll be back shortly. The ride downtown and my father silent. Heated Mercedes was a form of torture. He made benign small talk about the holiday traffic. The weather. I answered in monosyllables, staring out the window at the blur of festive lights. You seem very anxious. Amanda, he said softly as we pulled up to my West Village building. Is it just the headache? Or is something else bothering you? The question was a trap. I could feel it. I turned to him, forcing a weak smile. Just the migraine. Dad. And maybe a little fight with Marcus earlier. About missing dinner. Stupid stuff. He reached over and patted my knee. The gesture made my skin crawl. Don't worry about Marcus. He's a busy man, building a future. For both of you, everything will work out perfectly. You'll see. Get some rest. Thanks for the ride. I whispered, scrambling out of the car. I didn't look back. I walked through the lobby, nodded at the night doorman, and took the elevator up to my floor. Once inside my apartment, I threw every lock, slid the chain, and leaned against the solid wood, gasping for air. The silence was deafening. The cozy familiarity of my own space felt like a lie. I stumbled to the kitchen, poured a large glass of water with shaking hands, and drank it down. My evening bag lay on the counter where I dropped it. I opened it and took out the leather box. Clicking it open, the Walker rose diamonds glittered under the kitchen lights, cold and beautiful in mine. They were no longer just heirlooms. They were contraband, evidence of my own theft from the gilded prison I'd just escaped. I thought of my mother's terrified eyes, of my father's calm, plodding voice, of Jason's complicit silence, of Marcus, my stomach clenched so violently I doubled over. The ideal scenario is a voluntary committal. He's a professional. I looked around my apartment, the art I'd chosen, the books on the shelves, the life I'd built. It was all under siege. The people I loved, the foundation of my entire world, were not just crumbling. They were actively, deliberately, trying to bury me alive for money. The tears didn't come. Instead, a cold, sharp clarity settled over me, cutting through the shock and grief. It was the clarity of survival. I had no plan. I didn't know who to trust. But I knew two things with absolute certainty. I could not go back, and the man I was supposed to marry was going to try to destroy me. I clutched the diamond necklace in my fist, the sharp edges biting into my palm. The pain was an anchor. Outside, church bells began to toll, marking midnight. Christmas Day, silent night, holy night. All is calm, all is bright. I let out a choked, soundless laugh that was closer to a sob. Nothing was calm, and the only brightness came from the stolen jewels in my hand, the first and only tools in my fight for a life that was truly mine. Sleep was impossible. The night stretched before me, endless and full of terrifying whispers. The game was on, and I had just learned I was the intended sacrifice. I was alone, and I was awake. The shrill, relentless chirping of my phone shattered the fragile silence. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the night curled in an armchair by the window, the walker rose diamonds a cold, hard lump in the pocket of my robe, staring at the empty street below as if expecting my father's Mercedes or a fleet of police cars to materialize at any moment. The sky had lightened from black to a sickly gray. It was Christmas morning. My body protested as I unfurled myself, every muscle stiff with tension. The phone buzzed and skittered on the glass coffee table. The screen was a nightmare of notifications, dozens of missed calls, a flood of text messages, and, dominating the lock screen, a news alert from the New York Times. My thumb, cold and clumsy, swiped the screen. The headline burned into my retinas. Christmas heist at Upper East Side mansion. Heirloom jewels vanish. Inside job suspected. A cold wave of understanding. So, complete, it was almost peaceful. Washed over me. This was it. The opening move. I tapped the article with a numb finger. The exclusive home of financier Richard Walker and socialite Catherine Walker was the scene of a brazen theft last night. Sometime during the family's Christmas Eve dinner, a rare set of sapphire and diamond jewelry, valued in the millions and known as the Walker Blues, was stolen from a secured safe in the master bedroom. Police were called to the scene early Christmas morning. While no suspects have been named, sources close to the investigation indicate they are pursuing the possibility of an inside job. Given the lack of forced entry and the precise nature of the theft, Catherine Walker, visibly distraught, issued a brief statement to reporters. These pieces were not just valuable, they were my grandmother's. A piece of our family history. Our Christmas is shattered. We just want them back. No questions asked. A photo accompanied the text. My mother, wrapped in a cashmere shawl, standing on the townhouse steps. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She looked every inch the devastated victim. The performance was flawless. My phone buzzed again, a text message slicing through the numbness. It was from Jason. Jason, Amanda, you see the news? Bad business. Really bad. Mom's a wreck. Dad's furious. Cops are all over the place. Jason, look, we need to talk. Privately. Where are you? My fingers trembled as I typed. The lie coming automatically. Me.at my apartment. Just saw. That's horrible. Is Mom okay? 3 dots appeared. Pulsed. Then his reply came. Jason, she will be, when the jewelry is returned. The cops are leaning hard on the inside job angle. Makes sense, right? No broken windows. Alarm was on, but not tripped. Someone with the code. Jason, we all know you were in the house last night, and you left in a hurry. The accusation wasn't even veiled. It was a blunt instrument. Me, I had a migraine. Dad drove me home. What are you saying, Jason? His response was immediate. Jason, I'm saying Dad doesn't want to involve the police any more than necessary. Family scandal and all that. But Sophie, she's hysterical. Talking about security breaches and betrayal. You know how she gets. Jason, if you took something. Amanda, as some kind of, I don't know, stupid cry for attention or a fucked up joke. Now is the time to give it back. Slip it to me. No one has to know. We can end this before it gets ugly. I stared at the screen. A cry for attention. They were already building the narrative. The unstable daughter, jealous of the attention on her pregnant sister-in-law. Acting out. My breath came in short. Sharp gasps. I thought of the diamonds in my pocket. Had they planted something? Was my bag even now lined with invisible sapphire dust? Paranoia, sharp and acidic, rose in my throat. Me that I didn't take anything. Jason, I don't know what you're talking about. A long pause. Then, Jason, suit yourself. But it's going to get ugly. The cops have to do their job. They'll be wanting to talk to everyone who was in the house. And your sudden departure is going to look interesting. Jason, last chance. Amanda, be smart. The threat was clear. I threw the phone onto the couch as if it were a live spider. It landed face up, and another notification bloomed on the screen. The news alert from page 6. The headline was crueler. Walker family Christmas curse? Heirs Trust Fund drama amidst jewel thief mystery. They were connecting the dots in real time, and someone was feeding them the dots. I needed to talk to Marcus. He was my fiancé. He was supposed to be my ally, even as the thought formed. A part of me, the part that had heard my father's cold, plotting voice, recoiled. He's a professional, but I had to know. I had to hear his voice. Have him tell me it was all a nightmare, that he was on his way over right now. I called him. It rang once and went straight to voicemail. His smooth, recorded baritone. You've reached Marcus Thorne. Leave a message. I called again. Same thing. And again. A different kind of coldness seeped into my bones. I opened our messaging app. Our last exchange was from yesterday afternoon. Me sending him a silly selfie with a Christmas tree emoji. Him replying, can't wait to see you later. XO all lies. I typed, Marcus, call me. It's an emergency. My family's house was robbed. Things are crazy. I need you. I hit send. The message showed as delivered, but not read. An hour ago, it would have meant nothing. Now, it felt like a verdict. I tried his office number, a recorded holiday greeting. I called his assistant, a sweet woman named Chloe. Her phone rang until it clicked over to voicemail. The silence from his end was a roaring in my ears. Professional. I needed to move, to do something. The apartment felt like a cage, its walls pulsing with the echo of Jason's threats. I had to see for myself. I dressed in dark jeans and a simple black sweater, pulling a beanie low over my hair. I didn't look like Amanda Walker, gallery girl, trust fund daughter. I looked like someone trying not to be seen. The streets of the West Village were quiet, hushed by the holiday. I walked the 10 blocks to Marcus's building, my head down, my senses hyper-alert. The sleek Tribeca Tower looked the same as ever. I buzzed his apartment. No answer. I buzzed the concierge. Yes? A bored voice crackled through the intercom. Hi, it's Amanda Walker from Marcus Thorne. My key fob isn't working. A pause. One moment. Ms. Walker. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm sorry. Ms. Walker. Mr. Thorne checked out yesterday. The words didn't make sense. Checked out? What do you mean? He vacated the apartment. Gave notice last week. Actually, the movers came yesterday afternoon. He said he was relocating for work. I assumed you knew. The world narrowed to a pinprick of light. Did he leave a forwarding address? A note? I'm afraid not. Ma'am, the lease was terminated. All procedures followed. Is there anything else? No. I whispered. Thank you. I stumbled back from the door, leaning against the cold stone facade of the building next door. Vacated. Movers. Yesterday afternoon, while I was at my parents' house, steeling myself for a tense family dinner, he was packing. While I was discovering the plot against me, he was already gone. My legs carried me on autopilot to a small, overpriced coffee shop that was open. I ordered a black coffee I didn't want and took a seat in the back corner, my back to the wall. My hands were shaking so badly the coffee sloshed over the rim. I logged into our joint banking account on my phone. We'd opened it 6 months ago. For wedding expenses, Marcus had insisted. A show of faith, he'd said, kissing my forehead. Our first shared project. I'd transferred $25,000 of my own money into it. He'd matched it. The login worked. The balance displayed $48.75. I stared at the number. All of it. He'd taken all of it. Every last cent, leaving behind not even enough for a decent bottle of wine. The transaction history showed a single wire transfer. Initiated yesterday at 1:18 p.m. $49.951.25 sent to an account number I didn't recognize. The description field was blank. The finality of it was breathtaking. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a crisis at work. This was a liquidation. I put my head in my hands. The smell of coffee and cinnamon suddenly nauseating. The full weight of it crashed down, but the conspiracy, the theft, the abandonment. I was alone in a city that had turned alien, with a target painted on my back by my own family. And the man I'd promised to marry had vanished after cleaning out our bank account. A sound escaped me, a choked, dry sob that drew a glance from the barista. I choked it back. No, not here. I scrolled through my contacts. A frantic, useless exercise. Who could I call? Which friend was truly mine? And not just a friend of the Walker family? My gallery colleagues? They knew the curated, polite version of me. I couldn't go to the police. Not with my own brother all but accusing me of the theft. They'd take one look at the inside job theory, my hurried departure, and the missing fiancé, and I'd be their prime suspect. My father's words echoed. A voluntary committal to a private facility they wouldn't need to plant drugs in my purse. All they'd need was a hysterical, irrational daughter making wild accusations about her own family, coupled with the stress of a stolen inheritance and a runaway fiancé. They'd have me committed for a rest cure before I could say trust fund. I needed help, but not the kind you find in your social circle. I needed someone who operated in the shadows my family was trying to push me into. And then I remembered. 2 years ago, at a dreadful charity gala, my father had gotten into a heated argument with a man. The man was rude, blunt, and had publicly accused another wealthy donor of embezzling from the charity's funds. My father had been livid, calling him a vulgar ambulance chaser and a private snoop. The man had just smirked and said, "At least I find the truth. Richard, you just bury it." His name was Liam Carter, a private investigator. I'd been mortified at the time. Now, the memory was a flare in the darkness. A man my father despised. A man who found the truth. I didn't have his number, but I remembered my father later ranting that Carter had the gall to have a storefront in the Flatiron district. A quick, desperate search on my phone confirmed it. Carter Associates. Discreet inquiries. An address on East 21st Street. A website that was just a name. A phone number. And the phrase, confidentiality guaranteed. It was a Hail Mary. It was also my only play. I left the coffee shop, the full cup abandoned. The walk to Flatiron was a blur. The office was on the second floor of a nondescript building, above a dry cleaner. The door was unmarked. I knocked, my heart hammering against my ribs. After a long moment, it was opened by a man in his late 40s. He was tall, with the build of someone who'd been athletic but was starting to soften around the edges. His brown hair was streaked with gray and needed a cut. He wore a worn Oxford shirt, sleeves rolled up, and had the tired, watchful eyes of someone who'd seen too much. "We're closed. It's Christmas," he said, his voice a gravelly baritone. "I need to hire you." I blurted out, "My name is Amanda Walker. My father is Richard Walker." Recognition flickered in his eyes, followed by a deep, weary skepticism. "Walker? Of course. Let me guess. You lost your diamond earrings at the country club and Daddy wants them found before the help gets blamed?" The dismissal was like a slap. "No," I said, my voice trembling but fierce. "My family is trying to have me declared insane to steal my trust fund. My fiancé, who I think they hired, just disappeared with all my money. And this morning, they reported a multi-million-dollar jewel heist that I'm being set up to take the fall for. They're on the news right now." I held up my phone, the page 6 headline glowing. Liam Carter stared at me. The skepticism didn't vanish, but it was joined by a spark of sharp, professional interest. He looked past me, down the empty hallway, then back at my face, searching for the tells of hysteria or deception. "That's quite a story, Ms. Walker." "It's not a story. It's what's happening. And why come to me? Because my father thinks you're a vulgar snoop, which means you're probably honest." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. He stepped back, holding the door open wider. "You'd better come in. And for the record," he said, as I stepped into a Spartan office with filing cabinets and a large, scarred wooden desk, "my rates are vulgar." 2. Liam Carter's office smelled of stale coffee, old paper, and faintly, of lemon-scented disinfectant. It was a utilitarian space, gray filing cabinets, a functional desk littered with manila folders, 2 stiff client chairs, and a large window offering a view of a brick wall. There were no diplomas on the walls, no comforting platitudes, just a single, framed black and white photograph of the Brooklyn Bridge, shrouded in fog. He didn't offer me a seat. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed, watching me as I stood in the center of the room, feeling exposed and foolish. "Start from the beginning," he said, his voice devoid of the earlier sarcasm. It was neutral, professional. "Don't leave anything out, even if it makes you sound paranoid or guilty. And for God's sake, sit down. You're swaying." I sank into the chair, the adrenaline that had propelled me here beginning to ebb, leaving a cold, trembling exhaustion. I started talking. I told him about the strained dinner, the video call with my mother, her terrified warning. I repeated, word for word as best I could remember, the conversation I'd overheard between my father and Jason. The words voluntary committal, professional, and facilitation sounded even more grotesque spoken aloud in this stark room. I told him about Marcus's sudden work crisis, his empty apartment, the cleaned-out bank account. Finally, I showed him the news alerts on my phone about the sapphire theft and Jason's threatening texts. Throughout it all, Liam Carter listened without a single interruption, his expression unreadable. He didn't flinch at the mention of my father's name or raise an eyebrow at the scale of the alleged conspiracy. He just listened, his gaze fixed on a point somewhere over my shoulder, absorbing it. When I finished, my voice hoarse, the room was silent for a full minute. He pushed off the desk, walked to a small counter holding a coffee maker, and poured 2 mugs of black sludge from a half-full carafe. He handed one to me. I took it, the heat searing my palms. A welcome anchor. "Okay," he said finally, sitting in the worn leather chair behind his desk. "First, the ground rules. I'm not a therapist, a priest, or your friend. I'm a tool. You're hiring me to find facts. Those facts might be ugly. They might confirm your worst fears, or they might tell a completely different story. My job is to find them, not to make you feel better. Understood?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "Understood. Second, I'm expensive. My retainer is 25,000, non-refundable. I bill 250 an hour, plus expenses. My expenses can be significant. I use specialists. Digital forensics, financial analysts, people who don't like to be found. You pay for them, no questions asked. Within 7 days of invoice, the number was a punch to the gut. I had some money in my personal checking, but nowhere near that. My credit cards were in my name, but the accounts were linked to my father's wealth management firm. They'd see the charge, and the questions would start. I I don't have that kind of liquid cash right now. My fiancé just emptied our joint account, and my personal accounts are monitored. He finished for me. Yeah, I figured. The retainer isn't negotiable. It's a filter. Filters out the time wasters, the fantasists, and the people who aren't serious enough to see this through. What you're alleging involves powerful, wealthy people. Going up against that is a marathon, not a sprint. It costs money. I thought of the leather box in my bag, the Walker Rose diamonds, my grandmother's voice. For your independence. My darling, this was it. The moment to use it. Or to walk away and wait for the trap to spring shut. I can get it, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Today. But I need to know you believe me. Even a little. He took a sip of his coffee, grimaced, and set it down. I don't believe clients. I investigate facts. But I'll tell you this. Your story is crazy. It's the kind of crazy that, in my experience, is usually either true or the product of a genuine psychiatric break. You're coherent. You're scared, but you're not hysterical. The details you provided are specific and actionable. The timing of the alleged theft, the fiancé's disappearance, the financial motive that it's a pattern, a ugly, plausible pattern. So, I'll work the hypothesis. That's what you're paying for. It wasn't a reassurance, but it was the closest thing to validation I'd gotten. What's the first step? First, you give me everything. Marcus's full name, date of birth, social if you have it, where he worked, names of friends, family, his license plate, his gym membership, his fucking dry cleaner, then your family. I need access to any documents you have. Trust paperwork, anything. I need your phone. Now, my phone? I clutched it instinctively. It's the primary vector for surveillance, tracking, and digital breadcrumbs. I'll have my guy clone it. He'll see every app, every message, every location ping. He'll also be able to tell if there's any spyware on it, which, if your family is as serious as you say, there might be. The thought made me nauseous. Had every text, every search, every silly photo been flowing to someone else? To my father? To Marcus? I handed over the phone, feeling a layer of my privacy stripped away. He's good. You'll get it back in a few hours. Clean. In the meantime, he reached into a drawer and tossed a cheap, prepaid flip phone onto the desk. Use this. For me. For anyone you Javito contact. Don't call your parents, your brother, or any of your usual friends from it. Assume your regular number is compromised. I picked up the plastic brick. It felt like a prop from a bad spy movie. Okay, next. We need to establish Marcus's baseline. You say he's a pro. Pros have histories, patterns. They also have exit strategies. Him vanishing so cleanly suggests planning. I'll start digging, but you need to do something for me. What? Act normal, or as normal as you can. Go to work tomorrow. If anyone asks about the theft, you're horrified, supportive of your poor mother. If they ask about Marcus, he's swamped with work. You barely see him. It's tough. The perfect, understanding fiancé. You're grieving privately. You're worried about your family, the performance of your life. Can you do that? I thought of facing my colleagues, of making small talk. It seemed impossible, but the alternative, that hiding in my apartment, jumping at every sound that was worse. Yes, good. Now, the retainer. I need it by close of business today, or we don't start. How are you getting it? I unzipped my bag and pulled out the leather box. I opened it, the diamonds sparkling even in the dull office light. This was my grandmother's. The walker rose set. It's not the sapphires they're claiming were stolen. It's mine, free and clear. Or it was, until my father decided it wasn't. It's worth a lot more than 25,000. Liam didn't touch the box. He just looked at the jewels, then at my face. Pawnbrokers will give you a fraction of its value, and it leaves a paper trail, a very shiny, noticeable paper trail. I know a guy, I said, the phrase feeling alien in my mouth. At a gallery in the Diamond District. He's discreet. He's appraised pieces for my mother before. He'll give me a fair price for a quick, private sale. No questions asked. If the price is right for him. A flicker of what might have been respect crossed his face. All right, go. Do it. Bring me cash. Then we start. And Ms. Walker? He leaned forward, his eyes intent. From this moment on, trust no one. Not the friend you've known since kindergarten. Not the sweet old lady at your bakery. Assume every interaction is being watched, recorded, or manipulated. The only person on your side right now is the one you're paying. And that's a temporary arrangement. Understood? Understood. The man in the Diamond District was named Soul. His shop was tiny, tucked between two larger, flashier establishments, and smelled of cigar smoke and polish. He was a small, bird-like man with eyes that missed nothing. I'd met him twice before with my mother. He remembered me, Amanda Walker. He said, not smiling, a little far from the Upper East Side. No. And on Christmas, his gaze dropped to the bag in my hand. I need to sell something. Soul. Quickly and quietly. I placed the box on the glass counter between us. He didn't open it immediately. Your mother knows you're here? This isn't my mother's. It was my grandmother's. Left to me. I have the provenance paperwork. I slid a folded document across the counter. It was a copy I'd kept in my safe deposit box. He opened the box. His expression didn't change, but his breathing shallowed slightly. He took out a loupe and examined each piece with painstaking care under a bright light. Minutes ticked by. These are very good, he said finally. Very, very good. Not the most fashionable cut today, but the stone's exceptional. A true legacy piece. The market for such things it is specific. I know what it's worth. Soul. I need a price. Today. In cash. He named a figure. It was about 60% of the insurance appraisal. It was also more than enough to cover Liam's retainer and keep me afloat for months. I didn't haggle. I couldn't afford to. Deal. He nodded. Closed the box with a soft click that felt like a coffin lid closing on a part of my life. He disappeared into a back room and returned with a thick, plain white envelope. I didn't count it. The weight of it was enough. A piece of advice from an old man who has seen many things. He said as I tucked the envelope into my bag, jewels like this, they carry stories, often heavy ones. I hope you are trading this weight for a lighter one. So do I, Soul. So do I. Liam didn't comment on the cash. He took the envelope, counted it with practiced efficiency, and wrote out a receipt. Retainer received. The clock starts now. He slid a thick contract across the desk. Standard PI agreement. Scope of work. Confidentiality. My right to cease work if you become a liability or fail to pay invoices. Read it. Sign it. I scanned the dense legalese. It was all as he'd said. I signed. All right, he said, filing his copy. First update. My guy, who goes by Wraith, is working on your phone. Preliminary glance shows no obvious commercial spyware, but he's doing a deeper dive. More importantly, I started making calls. Marcus Thorne. My heart clenched at the name. What did you find? He resigned from Orion Capital a week ago. Effective immediately. Told his managing director he had a generational wealth event and was moving to Monaco to manage his own fund. A generational wealth event. I repeated, the euphemism tasting like ash. Exactly. HR was cagey. but for the right incentive. A temp in the department was more chatty. His exit was smooth. No projects handed off. His corporate apartment lease was terminated concurrently with his resignation. Very neat. And before Orion, you said you'd look for a pattern. That's the interesting part. Marcus Thorne, social security number, Ivy League pedigree, clean as a whistle, almost too clean. But a guy with that profile should have a deeper digital footprint. Old college club photos. Mentions in society pages before he met you. Something. His is shallow. It starts about 8 years ago. Before that, it's like he materialized out of thin air. What does that mean? It means Marcus Thorne might be a very good piece of work. A constructed identity. It takes money and connections to build one that holds up to basic scrutiny. The kind of money and connections your family has. He leaned back. I've got Wraith running his photo through some facial recognition databases that aren't exactly public. We'll see if he's worn other faces. The room felt suddenly colder. A constructed identity. My charming, handsome fiancé was a ghost. A hired actor playing a part. The part of the man I was supposed to spend my life with. What about my family? The theft? Too soon. The police report is fresh. I have a contact in the precinct who might be persuaded to share the initial details, how entry was supposedly gained, what wasn't taken, that kind of thing. That'll tell us if it's a real burglary staged to look like an inside job, or a complete fabrication. In the meantime, he handed me a list. I need you to write down everything you can remember about Marcus. Habits, quirks, stories he told about his childhood, names he mentioned, anything that seemed off, even at the time. Did he ever slip and call you by a different name? Mention a city or a street he shouldn't know. Anything. I took the pen and paper. The task felt monumental and mundane. I was to dissect my dead relationship for forensic clues. One more thing. Liam said as I started writing, your brother's threat. The texts. He's pushing you. He wants you rattled. Wants you to do something stupid, like run. Or show up at the townhouse screaming accusations. Don't. Your play right now is innocence and confusion. You're the bewildered, grieving daughter and fiancé. You're worried about your mother. Your hurt Marcus isn't here for you. You're the victim. Play that part until it's second nature. Because the moment you stop playing the victim they've assigned you, you become the threat they need to eliminate. I finished scribbling the first painful memories. Marcus's inexplicable hatred of lilies. Funeral flowers, he'd said with a shudder once. His perfect but oddly unplaceable accent. The fact that he had no childhood photos in his apartment, only sleek modern art. How do I live like this? The questions slipped out, small and pathetic. Liam Carter looked at me, no pity in his gaze. You just do, 1 hour at a time. You focus on the next task. Right now, your task is to go home, get through the night, and go to work tomorrow. My task is to start pulling threads. We'll talk tomorrow. He handed me back my smartphone. It's clean. Wraith found a tracker, a sophisticated one, bundled with a system update app you didn't install. It's gone now. He also set up a VPN and encrypted your calls and texts. It's not Fort Knox, but it'll help. Use the burner for me. I took my phone back. It looked the same, but it felt different. A weaponized object. As I walked out into the gloomy Christmas afternoon, the envelope of cash heavy in my bag, the cheap burner phone a lump in my pocket, I felt utterly alone. But I also felt, for the first time since I'd seen my mother's terrified face on the screen, a flicker of something other than sheer terror. It was a cold, hard sliver of purpose. They thought I was a pawn to be sacrificed. Liam Carter was teaching me the first rule of the game they'd forced me to play. Even a pawn could reach the other side and become something else entirely. I had my retainer, I had my investigator, and I had a role to play. The performance started now. The air in the Caldwell Gallery was always a precise 68 degrees, humidified to protect the delicate works on paper. This morning, The chill felt personal. I stood before a newly acquired Twombly scribble, trying to lose myself in its chaotic grace. But all I saw was financial desperation. How much did my father lose? The thought was a worm, burrowing into every quiet moment. Amanda? Earth to Amanda. I blinked. Chloe, the gallery's intern, was hovering with a worried frown. Sorry, miles in my head. It's okay. Mr. Caldwell was looking for you. Said the provenance files for the Klee sketches are a mess. She lowered her voice. Also, your phone's been buzzing in your bag for like 10 minutes straight. Everything all right? No, nothing is all right. I forced a smile. Just family stuff. Holidays. You know, a total circus. The lie was becoming easier, more fluid. I'll find Miles. My phone, when I retrieved it from my desk drawer, showed 3 missed calls from my mother and a string of texts. I ignored my mother's calls and opened the texts, all from various friends. OMG just saw the news. The Walker Blues stolen. Is your mom okay? That's so scary. Becca, thinking of you. Hey, let me know if you need anything. So awful. Todd from Yale heard about the burglary. Nuts. Also, saw page 6 rough week. Hang in there. The concern was a veneer over sheer, voracious curiosity. They were mining for gossip, for a sliver of the drama to share over their own brunches. I crafted generic, gracious replies, performing the daughterly concern Liam had prescribed. It felt like typing with someone else's fingers. The burner phone in my inner jacket pocket remained silent. Liam had said he'd call with updates. The silence was its own torture. Mr. Caldwell, a man whose aesthetic sensitivity was inversely proportional to his patience for administrative errors, berated me for 20 minutes over misplaced invoices. I absorbed it, nodding, apologizing. The familiar stress of work was almost a relief. A normal, petty problem in a world that had become monstrous. It wasn't until late afternoon, hiding in the gallery's stockroom under the guise of checking a shipment, that the burner finally vibrated. It's me. Liam's gravelly voice came through. No greeting. You alone. Stockroom. What do you have? A lot. First, Marcus. Wraith hit pay dirt on the facial recognition. Your fiancé has a past. He's popped up before, under different names. Marcus Turner in San Diego. 5 years ago, linked to a romance scam that targeted a widowed hotel heiress. Investigation went nowhere after she refused to press charges, citing embarrassment. Michael Stone in Chicago 3 years ago. Same MO. Older. Wealthy divorcee. He vanished when her kids hired a forensic accountant. The pictures are a match. Lower quality, different hair, but it's him. A wave of cold nausea washed over me. I leaned against a crate of packing peanuts. So he's a con artist, a grifter, a specialized one, high-end, long game, targets women with significant, often controlled, wealth, builds the perfect boyfriend profile. The goal isn't just to drain a checking account. It's to become indispensable, to gain influence over assets, or, in your case, to facilitate a specific outcome for a third-party payer. His tone was detached, clinical. Your father didn't just get lucky finding a shady guy. He hired a specialist. The pieces snapped together with a sickening finality. Marcus's patience, his focus on my future, his insistence on blending our lives, it was all part of the script. I was just the mark. What else? The finances. This is where it gets ugly for the Walker clan. I called in a favor with a forensic accountant I've used before. She's a ghost, doesn't exist on paper. She took a look at what's publicly available for your father's investment fund, Walker Capital Holdings, and cross-referenced with some less public loan registries. He paused, and I could hear the rustle of papers. Richard Walker is leveraged to the hilt. He made a series of catastrophic bets on green energy, startups that never materialized, lost tens of millions, To cover the losses and maintain liquidity, he took out a series of high-interest, short-term loans from an entity called Corinthian Partners. I've never heard of them. You wouldn't. They're a private lender of last resort. Shark territory. Their terms are brutal. He's been using one loan to pay the interest on another. A classic Ponzi structure. Our best estimate is he's about 90 days from a cascade failure. The banks would call in their lines. Corinthian would foreclose on his personal assets, the houses, the art collection, everything. It would be a very public, very messy collapse. My head spun. The gilded life, the relentless social positioning, the pressure to marry well. It was all a frantic performance to stave off ruin. My trust fund wasn't just a nice inheritance. It was the only life raft on a sinking ship. And I was in the way. The sapphires. I whispered. The theft. Right on cue. My contact in the 19th precinct finally got back to me. The police report is a work of art. No signs of forced entry on any door or window. The alarm was armed, but not tripped. The safe in your parents' bedroom is a top-of-the-line model, according to the report. It was opened with the correct combination. Nothing else in the room was disturbed. No fingerprints except family members and staff. Their working theory is absolutely an inside job. And guess whose fingerprints were found in the bedroom? On a perfume bottle on your mother's vanity? Mine. I said, the breath leaving my lungs. I was in there before dinner. She wanted to show me a new scent. Bingo. So, the physical evidence or lack thereof points to someone with access and knowledge. You were there. You left abruptly. Your fiancé, who has now vanished, had financial motives. The narrative writes itself. The emotionally unstable daughter, possibly influenced by her shady fiancé, steals the family jewels to fund his escape or as an act of revenge. They planted the seed with Jason's texts. I realized, anger cutting through the fear. He was setting the stage, giving me a chance to confess so they could control the story. Exactly. An insurance policy on those sapphires? Catherine Walker increased the insured value by $2 million 3 weeks ago. A routine update, according to her broker. Very convenient timing. A desperate, fractured laugh escaped me. So it's a double play. Discredit and possibly imprison me to gain control of the trust. And collect a massive insurance payout to plug the financial leaks. All while looking like the wronged, resilient family in the press. That's the hypothesis the facts are supporting. Liam confirmed. There was no triumph in his voice, just grim satisfaction at a puzzle coming together. It's elegant, ruthless, but elegant. I slid down the crate to sit on the concrete floor, the cold seeping through my wool trousers. What do? I can't go to the police with this. It's my word against theirs, and they have a framed police report. You don't go to the police. Not yet. You need irrefutable proof. A smoking gun. Right now. We have strong circumstantial evidence and a compelling motive. We need something that directly ties your father to Marcus, or proves the theft is a fraud. How do we get that? 2 paths. First, we find Marcus. He's the linchpin. If we can flip him, get him to testify, or provide evidence of the arrangement with your father, the whole house of cards collapses. He's a professional, but professionals hate prison. We need leverage. And the second path? The inside. Your family. Someone in that house knows more than they're saying. Your mother's warning proves she's conflicted. Your sister-in-law. Sophie, what's her stake in this? If the family goes bankrupt, she loses her cushy life too. But does she know the full price? We need to exploit a crack in their unity. The thought of manipulating Sophie, of trying to turn my mother, made my stomach churn. It felt dirty, like becoming them. I don't know if I can do that. Then you'd better get comfortable with the idea of a psychiatric evaluation. Liam said bluntly, this is a war. Amanda, they're not fighting fair. You can't afford to either. Now, listen, I have a lead on Marcus. Credit card trace. He's not in Monaco. He used a card with his Marcus Thorne identity to buy gas in Daytona Beach, Florida, 2 days ago. A single, small purchase. Probably testing if the card was still active or establishing an alibi trail. But it's a thread. I'm following it. Florida. It felt a million miles away. What do you need from me? Keep playing your part, but start listening. Carefully. If you talk to your mother, pay attention to what she doesn't say. If you see Sophie, gauge her fear, and think, is there anything that a document, a computer, a safe, a conversation you half remembered that could be evidence? Marcus must have slipped up sometime. Your father must have kept a record somewhere. I thought until my head ached. Marcus, he was paranoid about his laptop. Always had it with him. Never let me use it. He had a weird, specific password that a phrase. Kingfisher at dawn. He said it was from a poem he liked, but I could never find it. Does that help? It might. It's a data point. I'll pass it to Wraith. Keep thinking. He paused. And watch your back. If they're this desperate, and they sense you're not following the script, they may accelerate their timeline. Don't go anywhere alone at night. Check your car for trackers. Assume you're being followed. The call ended, leaving me in the silent, chilly stockroom. The world had shrunk to a ledger sheet of betrayals and a map pointing to Florida. My father was a bankrupt fraud. My mother was a co-conspirator with a guilty conscience. My fiancé was a ghost with multiple faces, and I was the asset they needed to liquidate. I stood up, brushing the dust from my clothes. The performance wasn't just for survival anymore. It was reconnaissance. I had to go back out there, into the gallery, into my life, and smile. I had to be Amanda Walker, the poor, distressed daughter, while underneath, I was becoming someone else than a hunter in my own family's jungle, learning to track the predators who raised me. I opened the stockroom door, the buzz of the gallery washing over me. Miles Caldwell was waving me over, looking irritated. A potential client, a woman in a fur coat, was pointing at the Twombly. I took a deep breath, fixed my face into a mask of polite attention, and walked toward them. The ledger was open. The numbers were damning. And for the first time, I was starting to understand the math. Silence was no longer an ally. For days, I'd been a ghost in my own life, moving through the gallery, my apartment, the city streets, shrouded in Liam's prescribed performance of confused grief. It was a passive defense, a waiting game, and waiting, I realized, was a luxury I couldn't afford. The ledger of their crimes was full. I needed my own evidence. I needed to go on the offensive. The idea came to me while staring at a hideously expensive abstract sculpture at the gallery. Its form was all sharp, jetting angles, aggressive and unapologetic. Be like that, I thought. Stop being the canvas they're painting their story on. Become the splatter that ruins the painting. I called Liam from a payphone near Battery Park, the salt wind whipping my hair. The passive approach isn't working, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. They're building their case in the press and probably with their lawyers. I need to get inside. Literally. Bad idea. Liam's voice crackled back. Walking into the lion's den is a rookie move. It's the only move I have. They think I'm rattled and hiding. If I show up, acting devastated but cooperative, it throws them off. I can look for something. Anything. My father keeps paper files in his study. Old school. He doesn't trust the cloud with everything. And if you get caught, then I'm a distraught daughter looking for a family photo to comfort herself. It's a risk, but sitting in my apartment waiting for them to have me committed is a guarantee. There was a long sigh on the other end. You're paying me for advice, not permission. My advice is, don't. But if you're going to be an idiot, be a smart one. Wear something with deep pockets. Use your phone's camera. Don't take anything physical. And for Christ's sake, have an exit strategy. My exit strategy was a lie, polished and ready. I called my mother on my regular phone, letting my voice waver with what sounded like exhaustion and despair. Mom, it's me. Amanda. Her voice was tight, guarded. Have you heard from Marcus? The question was a probe. No, I whispered, injecting a sob. Nothing. I'm going out of my mind. And with everything in the news, I feel so awful. I need to feel close to home. Is it okay if I come by? I left my old copy of A Movable Feast in my room. Hemingway always made me feel better when I was sad. I just want to get it and maybe sit in the garden for a bit? Alone? The silence stretched. I could almost hear her weighing the risks. A daughter coming to get a book was harmless. A daughter wanting to sit alone in the garden was pitiable. It played into their narrative of my fragile state. Of course, darling, she said, her tone softening into the practiced maternal concern. Come by any time. Your father is at the club, and Jason and Sophie are out looking at cribs. It'll be just us girls. Liar that I thought, but I sniffled gratefully. Thank you, Mom. I'll be there in an hour. The townhouse felt like a museum of a life I'd never truly inhabited. The air was still thick with the ghost of Christmas.pine, cinnamon, and the underlying tension of recent drama. My mother greeted me at the door. She looked older, the lines around her eyes deeper, but her embrace was just as perfumed and brittle as ever. Oh, my poor girl, she murmured into my hair. Her grip, just a shade too tight. Have the police bothered you? A detective called to confirm my whereabouts on Christmas Eve. I said, pulling back and wiping at my eyes. It was so humiliating, as if I could ever. I let the sentence hang, a perfect fragment of wounded innocence. I know, she said, leading me inside. It's a nightmare for all of us. The insurance people are like vultures. And the press. She gestured vaguely at the window, as if reporters were perched on the sill. It's all so sordid. I just want my book, I said, my voice small, and maybe to sit outside for a while. The air in my apartment feels stale. Of course. Sweetheart, your room is just as you left it. She patted my arm, her eyes scanning my face for something. Guilt, panic, a crack in the facade. I gave her only sorrow. I went upstairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. My old room was pristine, untouched. I went straight to the bookshelf, found the worn copy of Hemingway, and clutched it to my chest. Then I listened. The house was silent. No staff. Mom would likely be in the morning room, pretending to read, waiting for me to leave. I slipped out of my room and down the hall to my father's study. The door was unlocked. Arrogant, that I thought, or a trap that I stepped inside. Closing the door silently behind me, the room smelled of leather, old paper, and my father's cologne. Power and control. I went straight to the large, mahogany filing cabinet behind his desk. It was locked. My hope plummeted, but then I remembered. When I was 12, I'd hidden a diary in this room. My father had found it, of course, and to teach me a lesson about privacy. He'd shown me how easily a locked drawer could be opened if you knew where to look. He'd kept a spare key taped to the underside of the third drawer of his desk. My hands trembled as I felt for it. The smooth, cold metal was still there, secured by a strip of yellowing tape. Some lessons backfire. Dad, I unlocked the filing cabinet. The files were meticulously organized. I bypassed the sections labeled taxes, estate, and properties. My fingers found a tab marked Corinthian. I pulled the thick folder. Inside were loan agreements, amortization schedules, correspondence on heavy bond paper. The numbers were staggering. Liam's estimate had been conservative. The interest rates were usurious. I fumbled for my phone, opened the camera, and started snapping pictures. My breath loud in the silent room. Page after page of financial ruin. Then, behind the loan documents, I found a separate, thinner folder. The label simply said MT. My blood ran cold. I flipped it open. Inside were not financial documents, but profiles, photographs, printouts from what looked like social media, brief biographies, They were all women. Serena van der Woodson, 28, heiress to a pharmaceutical fortune. Chloe Duvall, 31, recently divorced from a tech billionaire. Amanda Walker, 25, my own college graduation photo, stared back at me. A yellow sticky note was attached to the corner of my photo, in my father's precise handwriting. It read, "Trust matures at 28. High sentimentality. Susceptible to fixer type. MT approved. MT, Marcus Thorne." Bile rose in my throat. I was a line item in a folder, a profile with a noted vulnerability. I photographed every page in the MT folder, my hands now ice cold and steady with fury. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. I froze, my phone halfway to the next page. The sound wasn't repeated. Had I imagined it? I shoved the files back into the cabinet, my movements frantic now. I relocked it, replaced the key, and slipped the phone into my deep jacket pocket just as the study door opened. It wasn't my mother. It was Sophie. She stood in the doorway, one hand on her still flat stomach, her eyes wide. She was dressed in yoga gear, a sheen of sweat on her forehead. She must have come in through the garden entrance. "Amanda?" she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and fear. "What are you doing in here?" The lie came instantly, fueled by adrenaline. "Looking for Dad," I said, forcing a shaky smile. I thought he might be back from the club. I wanted to apologize for being so distant. This whole thing with the robbery, with Marcus, I haven't been myself. I let my eyes well up. I just feel so lost. Sophie, her face softened, but her eyes remained wary. "Your mom said you were getting a book." I did. I held up the Hemingway. Then I thought maybe Dad could help. You know how he is. Always has a plan. I took a step towards her, playing the fragile sister-in-law. "How are you holding up? With the baby coming and all this chaos?" She glanced over her shoulder into the hall, then stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind her. The action felt conspiratorial. "It's a nightmare," she whispered, her veneer of Upper East Side composure cracking. "Jason is a wreck. Your parents are fighting all the time. It's not about the jewels. Not really. It's about money. I hear things." This was the crack Liam had talked about. I widened my eyes, playing dumb. "Money? What do you mean?" "We have money." She gave a short, bitter laugh. "Do we?" "Jason's been liquidating his portfolio. He sold his vintage Aston Martin last week. Told me it was to free up capital for the baby's future, but that was a lie. He loved that car." She bit her lip, looking younger and more scared than I'd ever seen her. "He's scared, Amanda. And when Jason gets scared, he gets mean." I saw my opening. It was a risk, a massive one, but the files burning a hole in my pocket gave me a sliver of courage. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a confessional murmur. "Sophie, can I tell you something? Something I haven't told anyone? It's about Marcus." She nodded. "Hooked. Before he disappeared, he gave me something. A little USB drive. He said it was encrypted. He told me that if anything ever happened to him, or if things with my family ever got weird, I should take it to a specific reporter he knew. He said it had insurance on it." I watched her face closely. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought he was being dramatic, you know, with all his secretive work stuff. But now, with him gone, and the police asking questions, I don't know what to do with it. Sophie's face went pale. The fear in her eyes was no longer vague. It was sharp, specific. A USB drive? With what on it? I shook my head. The picture of confused innocence. "I don't know." He wouldn't say, just that it was protective. Do you think it has something to do with what's happening? With the robbery?" I let my voice tremble. "Do you think Marcus was involved?" "I think you should destroy it," she said, her voice urgent. "Throw it in the river. Whatever's on it. It can only make things worse. This family, they close ranks. Amanda, if they think you have something that could hurt them." She trailed off, her hand instinctively covering her stomach. Hurt them? Or hurt Jason? I pressed softly. She didn't answer. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. She knew. Maybe not all of it. Not the cold specifics in the empty folder. But she knew the essence of the rot. I have to go, she said suddenly, pulling away. I shouldn't have. Just forget we talked. Get your book and go home. Amanda, be careful. She fled the room, leaving the scent of her expensive lavender sweat and a cloud of palpable dread behind her. I stood there, my mind racing. The reaction was better than I'd hoped. The fictional USB drive was a grenade, and I had just pulled the pin in the middle of their house. Jason would hear about it within the hour. It would make them paranoid, unsure of what Marcus might have left behind. It might make them reckless. I took one last look around the study, the scene of my first real crime, then slipped out. Hemingway clutched to my chest. I found my mother in the sunroom. Found it, I said, holding up the book. My eyes were red-rimmed, from real stress this time. I think I'll just head home. I'm not feeling up to the garden after all. She studied me, her gaze sharp. Are you sure? Darling, you look flushed. Did you see Sophie? She said she popped in. Briefly, I said, looking down. She seemed stressed. This is all so hard on everyone. I leaned in and gave her a quick, stiff hug. I love you, Mom. The words tasted like ash. She hugged me back, her body tense. We'll get through this, Amanda, as a family. I walked out of the townhouse, the winter sun blindingly bright. The weight of the phone in my pocket, full of stolen images, was immense, but a new, colder weight had settled in my chest. The certainty of their guilt, and the first, faint thrill of turning their own weapons against them. Back in my apartment, I downloaded the photos and sent them to Liam via a secure portal he'd set up. Within 20 minutes, my burner phone rang. The Corinthian files are gold. He said, no hello, solid, documentary proof of the financial motive. The empty folder is circumstantial but highly suggestive. It shows premeditation and targeting. Good work. And Sophie? I asked. I dangled the USB drive bait. He let out a low whistle. That's playing with fire, but smart. If she's scared and she talks to your brother, it puts pressure on them. They might make a mistake trying to find a drive that doesn't exist. He paused. The Florida lead on Marcus is getting warmer. Credit card trail went cold, but Wraith found a flight manifest. A Michael Stone point, one of his aliases, flew from Newark to Orlando the day after Christmas. One-way ticket. He's holed up somewhere, waiting for his payday or his next move. I want to go, I said, the words out of my mouth before I fully thought them through. To Florida? No, absolutely not. That's my job. It's my life. I shot back, the anger from the study surging back. He looked me in the eye for 2 years and lied. He made me believe he loved me so he could help my family destroy me. I need to see him. I need to look at him and know it was all a transaction. And I might be the only person who can get him to slip up, to confirm something. It's a terrible idea. Emotion clouds judgment. My judgment is plenty clear right now. You said we need leverage to flip him. What better leverage than me? Standing in front of him, telling him I know everything, that I have evidence on my family. He's a mercenary. If he sees their ship is sinking and I'm offering a life raft, he might talk. You can be there, in the background, ready to scoop him up. But I need to be the one in his face. Liam was silent for a long time. I could hear him thinking, weighing the risks. You're going to get yourself killed or discredited, he said finally, but his tone had shifted from refusal to grim assessment. I'm already discredited, and they're trying to have me institutionalized, which is a kind of death. I'm not waiting for it to happen. I'm going to Florida. You can help me, or I'll go alone. Another pause, then a sigh, heavy with resignation. Fine, but we do this my way. Every step, you follow my lead. You don't confront him alone. You're the bait, not the spear. Understood? Understood. A strange, fierce energy coursed through me. The fear was still there, a constant hum, but it was now fused with a sharp, purposeful rage. I was done being a file in a drawer. I was done being a problem to be managed. I was going to find the man who broke my heart as a business decision, and I was going to use him to break the people who hired him. The inside game had begun, and I was no longer playing on the defensive. I was taking the fight to them. Florida in January was a smug lie. The sun was too bright, the palm trees too cheerful, the ocean breeze too gentle. It felt like the world was mocking the ice in my veins. Liam and I sat in a rented sedan that smelled of stale coffee and anxiety, parked across from a sprawling, Mediterranean-style resort in Palm Beach. The Villa del Mar screamed discreet wealth. All stucco arches and bougainvillea, the kind of place where staff were trained to see nothing. "He's in Bungalow 7, Liam said, not looking up from his tablet. He'd been glued to it since we landed, tracking digital breadcrumbs, registered under Michael Stone, paid for a month in advance, cashier's check drawn on a Cayman Islands bank. Classy. My hands were clenched in my lap, nails digging into my palms. The photos from my father's study were a weight in my bag. The memory of Sophie's terrified face was a ghost in the air-conditioned car. What's the play? My voice sounded strange to me, taut and low. The play is you follow the script, Liam said, finally looking at me. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. We go in. You talk. I record. You get him to admit to the arrangement with your father. You do not lose your temper. You do not threaten. You appeal to his self-interest. He's a hired gun. The money's the only thing he cares about. If he thinks the deal is turning sour, or that there's a better deal on the table, he might talk. And if he doesn't, then we leave. We have his location, his alias. We hand what we have to a lawyer and see if we can force a subpoena. But it'll be messy. Your testimony about overhearing your father isn't enough. We need him. He pocketed his tablet and slid a small, discreet voice recorder from his jacket. He clipped it inside my blouse. His movements professional and impersonal. Test. What do you want me to say? I whispered. The weather is nice. The coffee is terrible. Anything. He adjusted the device, his fingers brushing the fabric. Okay, it's live. Remember, bait, not spear. You're offering him a way out, not accusing him. Lead with what you know. Make him think you have more. We walked across the manicured lawn, the sound of the ocean a gentle hush in the distance. It was obscenely peaceful. Bungalow 7 had a private patio shaded by a giant palm. Through the sliding glass doors, I could see a figure moving inside. Liam gave me a short nod and melted back towards a cluster of hibiscus bushes, becoming just another shadow. I was alone. I took a deep breath, tasting salt and betrayal, and knocked on the wooden frame of the screen door. For a moment, nothing. Then the interior door opened. Marcus stood there, bathed in the Florida sunlight. He was barefoot, wearing linen trousers and a white t-shirt, tan and relaxed. He looked like an advertisement for a life I'd thought we'd have together. When he saw me, his face didn't register shock or guilt. It settled into a mild, weary resignation, as if I were a delayed room service order. Amanda. He said my name flatly. No question, no surprise. Hello, Marcus. The name felt like a foreign object in my mouth. Or should I call you Michael? Or what was it in San Diego? Marcus Turner? A flicker in his eyes. Annoyance, not shame. He sighed, ran a hand through his perfectly tousled hair, a gesture I used to find charming, and pushed the screen door open. You'd better come in. The bungalow was pristine, impersonal. A laptop sat open on the dining table, next to a half-empty glass of iced tea. Suitcases stood neatly by the bedroom door, packed and ready. He was leaving soon. How did you find me? He asked, leaning against the kitchenette counter, arms crossed. He didn't offer me a seat. Does it matter? I said, staying near the door. You didn't make it very hard. A gas purchase? Really? He shrugged. Had to make it look like a road trip. For the narrative, his tone was chillingly analytical. So, you know, I know my father hired you to seduce me, to orchestrate some kind of breakdown so they could lock me away and take my trust fund. I know you're a professional, a con artist. I know you emptied our joint account. I know about Serena van der Woodsen and Chloe Duval. I recited the facts like a grocery list, fighting to keep my voice from shaking. He nodded slowly, as if grading my comprehension. You've been busy, and I suppose the private eye in the hibiscus is responsible for the deeper dive? Carter, right? Your father warned me about him, called him a gutter rat. He's good at finding rats. I shot back. Of all kinds. A faint, cold smile touched his lips. Touché. So, what's the pitch? Amanda, you're here for closure? Revenge? A refund? He gestured vaguely around the room. As you can see, liquid assets are temporarily tied up. The casual cruelty of it broke something loose inside me. The calm I'd been clinging to evaporated. You lived with me for 2 years. You told me you loved me. You asked me to marry you. Was any of it real? For 1 second, he studied me, his head tilted. It was the look he used to give a complicated wine list. Real? He considered the word. The objective was real. The execution required a certain emotional verisimilitude. You were a challenging mark. I'll give you that. Smarter than the others. More guarded. The trust fund timeline was a longer play than I usually prefer. He said it like he was discussing a tricky stock option. Verisimilitude. I repeated, the clinical term making me feel violently ill. You're a monster. I'm a professional. He corrected, his voice hardening. Your father is the monster. He came to me with a business proposition, a lucrative one. My role was to create a specific emotional context. Your alleged instability predates me. By the way, the whispers about your fragility after your grandmother's death, your difficult independence, that was all groundwork laid by your family. I just amplified the signal. He pushed off the counter and walked to the table, picking up his iced tea. The breakdown was to be a public, undeniable crisis. A DUI with substances in your system. A bizarre, embarrassing scene at a high-profile event. Something that would force a concerned family to seek a voluntary psychiatric hold. Once you were in the system, with your family's influence and doctors on their payroll, getting a judge to grant them conservatorship over your affairs would have been a formality. The trust fund becomes theirs to manage. I get a 7-figure bonus and a glowing recommendation for my next venture. Clean, elegant. He was describing the erasure of my life as if it were a corporate merger. The banality of it was more horrifying than any dramatic plot. But the theft? I prompted, wanting to hear him say it. His expression tightened. That was your father getting greedy. And nervous. The pressure from his lenders was increasing. He needed a quicker cash infusion. The sapphire heist was his idea. A 2 birds, 1 stone scenario. Discredit you further and collect a massive insurance payout. I advised against it. Too messy. Too many variables. But he insisted. He provided the codes. The access. My role was simply to be conspicuously absent, providing a plausible corrupting influence for you. He took a sip of his tea. I hear they've already filed the claim. Efficient. I felt the small recorder pressing against my ribs. A cold comfort. He was confessing to everything. So you were just following orders? I asked, my voice dripping with contempt. I was fulfilling a contract. He said calmly, one your father is now in danger of breaching. The payment schedule has stalled, hence my early departure. He gestured to the suitcases. I don't work on credit. This was the opening. The crack Liam had predicted. He's not going to pay you, I said, taking a step forward. He's drowning. The Corinthian loans are calling. He's desperate. When this all goes south, who do you think he'll throw to the wolves? The unstable daughter or the con man he hired? You're the perfect fall guy. Marcus, The mysterious fiancé who corrupted me and fled with the jewels. They've already planted the seeds in the press. For the first time, a shadow crossed his face, a flicker of doubt. He set his glass down carefully. I have protections, contingencies. Do you? I pressed. I have the loan documents. I have a file with my picture in it, with notes on how to manipulate me. I have a mother who warned me, and a sister-in-law who's scared out of her mind. The story is unraveling, and you're holding the loose end. I took another step, my heart hammering. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to make a deal. He laughed. A short, ugly sound. A deal? With you? You have no money, no power. You're a pawn. Amanda, a soon-to-be institutionalized pawn. I have evidence, I said, my voice low and steady. And I have a better story for the authorities than my father does. One where I'm the victim of a conspiracy between my bankrupt family and a known grifter. One where I cooperate fully. What do you think happens to you in that story, Marcus? How long do your protections last when the FBI starts looking at interstate fraud and conspiracy charges? You think your Cayman account will keep you out of a federal penitentiary? The arrogance in his eyes was slowly being replaced by calculation. I could see him working through it, the cold logic of survival overriding everything else. What do you want? He asked, his voice now all business. I want you to give me everything. The communications with my father, proof of the arrangement, bank records for the payments you did receive. I want it all. In exchange, when I take this to the authorities, I portray you as a minor player, coerced and misled by my powerful father. You might still do some time, but it'll be a lot less than if I bury you with the rest of them. He stared at me, a new appraisal in his gaze. The scared, love-struck girl was gone. In her place was someone he had to negotiate with. And why would you offer me that? Because my fight isn't with you. It's with them. You're a tool they used. I want the people who wielded the tool. Give me them. And you get a chance to slip away when this is over. Not to Monaco. Maybe. Somewhere less extradition-friendly. Silence stretched between us, filled only with the hum of the air conditioner and the distant crash of waves. He walked to his laptop, typed something, and stared at the screen for a long minute. Your father, he said slowly, not looking at me, is more dangerous than you know. The plan had evolved. The breakdown scenario was phase 1. When he started panicking about the money, he discussed other options with your brother, more permanent ones. A new, deeper layer of ice formed in my gut. What are you talking about? He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw something akin to genuine unease in his expression. I recorded our calls. For my own protection, the last one. A week ago, he was talking about finalizing the trust situation. Jason said something about an accident being cleaner than a commitment. A car crash. Something that couldn't be traced back. Your father didn't say no. Amanda, he said, explore the feasibility. Cost-benefit analysis. The room swam. An accident. A car crashed. My brother had suggested killing me. And my father had asked for a cost-benefit analysis. Do you have that recording? My voice was a thread. He nodded. A single, sharp dip of his chin. I have all of them. Encrypted. Backed up in multiple places. The whole sordid plot. From the first meeting to the discussion of your potential retirement. I want it. Now. He looked at me. The deal maker, finalizing the terms. You get the files. You swear on whatever you have left that your version to the feds minimizes my role. You give me a 12-hour head start from the moment you hand everything over. And you never, ever look for me again. Agreed. He plugged a small, sleek external drive into his laptop. His fingers flew over the keys. After a minute, he ejected it and held it out. It was black, unmarked. Everything is on here. The recordings, the emails, the transfer instructions, everything. The password is Kingfisher at dawn. I took the drive, It was warm from his hand. It felt like holding a live coal. Proof, not just of fraud, but of conspiracy, of murderous intent. You should leave Florida, he said, his tone now devoid of any emotion. Today, your father is paranoid. If he suspects you're not following the script, he'll accelerate whatever plan B he's cooked up. He's not a man who likes loose ends. He looked at me, and for a fleeting second, I saw something that might have been pity. You were a good mark, Amanda, one of the best. In another life, don't. I cut him off, my voice cracking with the force of my disgust. Just don't. I turned and walked out. The drive clutched so tightly in my fist, I thought the plastic might crack. The bright Florida sun hit me like a physical blow. Liam materialized from the bushes, his face grim. I got most of it, he said, tapping his ear where a nearly invisible bud was placed. Enough to make a judge's hair curl. The drive? I held it up. A tiny black totem of my family's evil. We need to get it to Wraith. Have him verify, copy, and lock it in a digital vault. He started walking briskly towards the car. And he's right. We're not safe here. Your father's not just a fraud. He's desperate. And desperate men with money do stupid, violent things. As we drove away from the cheerful resort, the ocean glittering innocently beside us, the weight of the drive in my hand was immense. I had it, the smoking gun, the recorded proof of the plot to destroy me, and the cold, corporate discussion of my possible murder. But instead of triumph, a new, more profound fear settled over me. I had won the battle for evidence, but I had just confirmed that the war was far more deadly than I'd ever imagined. They weren't just trying to lock me away anymore. They were exploring the feasibility of having me killed. And as Liam merged onto the highway, heading for the airport, I watched the palm trees blur past, wondering if every car behind us was a threat, and if my own father had already signed off on the cost-benefit analysis of my death. The familiar skyline of New York, sharp and gray against the winter sky, offered no comfort. It felt like a cage I was willingly flying back into. Liam and I didn't speak on the flight. He was busy on his laptop, presumably sending the damning files from Marcus's drive to the digital fortress maintained by his ghostly associate, Wraith. I stared out the window. The drive itself now copied and secured a phantom weight in my bag. The cold, transactional tone of my father and brother discussing my accident played on a loop in my mind. We need a lawyer, Liam said, finally breaking the silence as the plane began its descent. A good one, not your family's. Someone who specializes in financial crimes, trust law, and isn't afraid of the Walker name. I don't know any, I admitted, my voice hollow. I do. Eleanor Vance. She's a pit bull in a Chanel suit. Used to be a federal prosecutor. Hates bullies. Loves a complicated paper trail. She's expensive, but she's the best. He looked at me. You need to get in front of this. You can't wait for them to make the next move. You have to force theirs. What's the play? You, through Eleanor, initiate a formal inquiry with the trustees of your fund, your parents. You express concerns about potential conflicts of interest given their financial difficulties and the recent criminal incident at the family home. You request an independent audit of the trust's management and a temporary freeze on any disbursements or changes to the terms. It's a procedural grenade. It forces them into the open. Legally, they'll have to respond. It was aggressive. It was declaring war in the politest, most legal terms possible. They'll go ballistic. That's the point. When people go ballistic, they make mistakes. Eleanor Vance's office was in a sleek midtown tower, all cool marble and silent elevators. She was in her 50s, with a razor-sharp blonde bob and eyes that missed nothing. She listened, without interruption, as I laid out the story again, supplemented by Liam's summary of the evidence to the Corinthian files, the MT folder, and now, the recordings from Marcus. When I finished, she steepled her fingers. Ms. Walker, You are alleging a criminal conspiracy involving fraud, potential kidnapping for conservatorship, insurance fraud, and solicitation of murder, all orchestrated by your immediate family. The evidence you describe is compelling, but much of it is circumstantial or was obtained through methods that could be challenged. The recordings, if authentic, are the crown jewels. They're authentic. Liam said from his seat in the corner, "I'll need my own expert to verify that," she said crisply. However, for our immediate purpose of protecting your trust, the financial evidence alone provides ample grounds for concern. I can file a petition in Sigurt's court this afternoon. It will be a shockwave. Do it, I said. 2 hours later, the shockwave hit. I was back in my apartment, trying and failing to eat something, when my phone exploded. It was my father. The call connected, and before I could speak, his voice roared through, stripped of all pretense. Pure, undiluted fury. What in God's name have you done? You stupid, ungrateful girl. I held the phone slightly away from my ear, my heart thudding. Hello, father. Eleanor Vance? You hired that viper? A petition for an audit? A freeze? Have you lost your mind completely? He was nearly sputtering. I'm protecting my interests, I said, my voice calm, belying the tremor in my hands. Given the family's financial pressures and the police investigation, it seems prudent. Prudent? This is betrayal. This is you siding with thieves and liars against your own blood. Is this that Snoop Carter in your ear? Or that bastard Marcus? Did he fill your head with poison before he ran off with his ill-gotten gains? The projection was masterful. He was already weaving the new narrative. I was the pawn of a con man, turning against my family. This is my decision, I said. My lawyer's advice. No one else's. You will withdraw that petition. Today, you will fire Eleanor Vance, and you will come home, where we can discuss this as a family. Before you cause irreparable damage. The threat was palpable. I don't think so. There was a deadly silence on the other end. When he spoke again, his voice was low, controlled, and infinitely more frightening. Amanda, you are on a path that will lead to your destruction. You are not well. The stress, Marcus's betrayal, it's broken you. We see it. The police will see it. A judge will see it. Withdraw the petition, and we can get you the help you need. The quiet, private help. Continue down this road, and the help will become public and compulsory. Do you understand me? It was the threat, laid bare, the psychiatric hold. I closed my eyes. I understand you perfectly. Good. Make the right choice. He hung up. The phone rang again, instantly. My mother. Her voice was choked with tears. A masterpiece of manipulated grief. Amanda, darling, please, what are you doing? Your father is beside himself. We're your family. We love you. This legal attack, it will tear us apart. It will be in all the papers. Think of the scandal. Think of your niece or nephew coming into this world with this ugliness. I'm thinking of my future. Mom, the one you and Dad were planning to have me spend in a facility. A sharp intake of breath. That's a lie. That's what that horrible man told you. He's twisted your mind. Amanda, I begged you to leave that night because I was afraid of the tension, of what you might hear taken out of context, not because of some plot. How could you believe that of us? The gaslighting was so smooth, so plausible. For a second, doubt, that old enemy, flickered. What if I was wrong? What if Marcus had fabricated everything? But then I saw the empty folder in my mind's eye. My photo, the sticky note, susceptible to fixer type. I have evidence. Mom, I'm not crazy. Her weeping intensified. Evidence can be faked. Oh, my baby, what has he done to you? Please, let us help you. Come home. Let's talk without lawyers. Just us. Goodbye, Mother. I ended the call, my resolve hardening into something cold and sharp. The next call was from a blocked number. I almost didn't answer. but some grim instinct made me swipe accept. Hello, sis. It was Jason. His voice was quiet, devoid of its usual smugness. It was cold, flat, and final. You've really done it now. I've protected myself. Jason, have you? He gave a soft, humorless laugh. You've just painted the biggest target imaginable on your back. Dad's petition is one thing. Mine is simpler. What's that? You're a liability, an unstable, accusing liability who's in possession of stolen property and is consorting with known criminals. The police are very interested in the digital footprint of one Liam Carter. You know, and the forensics on your apartment will be fascinating. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? I'm talking about being proactive. You've chosen war. Amanda, in a war, you take out the enemy's assets. Your credibility is your only asset. By this time tomorrow, you won't have any. Enjoy your last night of freedom. The line went dead. I stood in the middle of my living room, the silence screaming at me. Forensics on your apartment. What had they done? I called Liam on the burner. Jason just called. He threatened me. Said something about forensics on my apartment and the police being interested in you. Liam cursed under his breath. They're moving faster than I thought. They're going to plan something, or claim they found something. They have the access. They could have gotten a key from building management, citing a family emergency. What do I do? You get out of there. Now, don't touch anything. Don't pack. Just take your bag, your laptop, the burner, and go. Meet me at the safe place. I'm texting you the address. It's a short-term rental, paid for in cash, under a shell company. Don't use your credit cards. Don't take a taxi you hail on the street. Use the rideshare app on the burner. Pay cash if you can. Go. I grabbed my essentials, my hand shaking. As I rushed for the door, my regular phone buzzed with a text. It was from Sophie. Sophie, they know. About everything. The petition. They're furious. Jason's not just talking anymore. He's doing something. I heard him on the phone. He mentioned a delivery to your address. A package that would settle things. I don't know what it means, but it's bad. Don't go home. If you're there, leave. Now. The confirmation was a punch to the gut. I typed back, my fingers fumbling. Me already leaving. What kind of package? Drugs? Sophie that I don't know. Maybe. Or a gun. Something to put in your apartment. They're talking about a wellness check by the police tomorrow morning. Whatever it is. They want it found. Amanda, I'm scared. For me. For the baby. He's different. Me, can you get out? Go to your parents? Sophie, and say what? That my husband might be a murderer? They'd call him themselves. I'm trapped. Just be safe. And for God's sake, beat them. I ran out of my apartment, taking the stairs down 12 flights instead of waiting for the elevator. On the street, I used the burner to call a car from a nondescript service Liam had preloaded. As I slid into the back seat, I saw a dark sedan idling halfway down the block. It didn't follow us, but the feeling of being watched was a cloak I couldn't shed. The safe house was a bland, furnished studio in Astoria, Queens. Liam was already there, his laptop open, his face grim. Wraith intercepted some communications. He said, without preamble, encrypted, but he's good. A text from a number linked to one of your father's shell companies to a known low-level drug distributor in the Bronx. It requested a special delivery of party supplies at a term for high-purity cocaine to be left in a specific location. The maintenance closet on your floor of your building. Tonight, payment was wired. They're going to plant drugs in my building and then call in an anonymous tip that I'm a user, a dealer. I whispered, the pieces snapping together. The police do a wellness check, find the stash conveniently placed, and I get arrested, even if it doesn't stick. The arrest, the mugshot, my credibility is gone. The court would never believe me over them. It's classic. Liam nodded. And effective. A drug arrest gives them immediate grounds to petition for emergency guardianship. You'd be in Rikers. then remanded to a treatment facility before you could blink. We have to stop it. We can't. If we intercept the delivery, they'll just try something else. Maybe worse. We need to let it happen. But on our terms. A fierce, calculating light came into his eyes. We turn their trap into ours. We get the police there, but we make sure they find more than just the drugs. What do you mean? We give them a show and a star witness. He picked up the burner phone. I'm calling my contact at the precinct. Not the one who gave us the theft report. A different one. A detective who hates rich people who think they're above the law. We're going to give him the performance of his career. And you, Amanda, are going to be the director. He started explaining the plan. His words fast and precise. It was risky, insane, and the only move we had left. It involved me going back to my apartment, being there when the wellness check arrived, and steering the narrative with evidence we would plant in plain sight. As he spoke, the fear didn't leave me, but it was joined by a surge of adrenaline. They wanted a public takedown? Fine. We'd give them a public spectacle, but it would be their conspiracy laid bare, not my breakdown. The war was no longer in the shadows of studies or sunny Florida bungalows. It was coming to my doorstep tomorrow morning, and for the first time, I wasn't just trying to escape the trap. I was preparing to slam it shut on the ones who built it. The silence in my apartment was a physical thing, thick and expectant. I sat in the living room, hands folded on my lap, facing the door. Liam's voice from the burner phone, an hour ago, was on loop in my head. Remember, you're a victim who got lucky. You're scared. You're confused. But you're lucid. You're not making accusations. You're just presenting terrifying coincidences. Let Rivera connect the dots. Detective Mateo Rivera, NYPD, Liam's reliable contact. A man described as having a permanent grudge against the wealthy and connected. He was on his way, tipped off to a potential drug-related incident and possible harassment at this address. The real 911 call about a wellness check from an anonymous concerned family member was scheduled for 9 a.m. It was 8:55. At 8:57, a faint scrape echoed from the hallway. Then the distinct sound of the maintenance closet door, next to mine, being opened and softly closed. A few seconds later, quick, receding footsteps. The delivery had been made. At 9:03, a firm knock shook my door. NYPD, open up. Ms. Walker, we're here for a wellness check. I took a deep breath, schooled my face into one of wary alarm, and opened the door. Two uniformed officers stood there, a man and a woman, their expressions politely neutral. Behind them stood a man in a worn leather jacket, Detective Rivera. He had a tired face and eyes that immediately scanned the room behind me. Ms. Walker? I'm Officer Jenkins. We received a call expressing concern for your welfare. May we come in? Concern? From who? I asked, stepping back to let them enter. My voice laced with believable confusion. The caller wished to remain anonymous. The female officer said, they reported concerns about drug use and erratic behavior. We're just here to check on you. Her gaze was already sweeping the room, looking for the obvious. Needles, paraphernalia, chaos, drugs? That's insane, I said, injecting a tremor. I've never. Who would say that? I looked at Detective Rivera, who was lingering by the door, watching me intently. Is this about the burglary at my parents' house? The press? Has this gotten that bad? Rivera stepped forward. Detective Rivera, maybe we can sit down. Ms. Walker, you seem composed. The call suggested otherwise. I sank onto the sofa. I'm scared. Detective, not high. Something's happening. I think someone is trying to set me up. His eyebrows went up a fraction. Set you up? For what? Before I could answer, the male officer, who had been glancing around, spoke up. Sir, the call also mentioned a possible stash. For the safety of all parties, we should do a cursory visual inspection of the premises. Do you consent? Ms. Walker? This was the moment. Yes, of course. I have nothing to hide. But can you please check the hallway first? I heard someone out there at my neighbor's closet a few minutes ago. It was odd. It's got me on edge. Rivera's eyes sharpened. He gave a short nod to the officer, who stepped back into the hall. We waited in tense silence. I wrung my hands, the picture of nervous anxiety. The officer returned, holding a clear Ziploc bag filled with a white powder. He was wearing gloves. Found this taped to the back of the maintenance closet door, just outside this apartment. It wasn't there during my building patrol last night. Rivera took the bag, held it up, then looked at me. His expression was unreadable. Care to explain? Terror, real and unfiltered, shot through me. This is it. I let it show. No, I've never seen that. I told you. I heard someone, just a few minutes ago. They must have put it there. My voice rose, convincingly frantic. Convenient, Rivera murmured. He placed the bag on my coffee table. This is a substantial amount. Intent to distribute territory. This is very serious. Ms. Walker, I know it's serious. That's why I'm telling you. I didn't put it there. Check the tapes. The building has a camera in the elevator lobby. Already requested, Rivera said calmly. But that takes time. In the meantime, this, he tapped the bag, along with the call about your erratic behavior, gives us probable cause to search the apartment. Do you still consent? Liam's plan hinged on them searching. Yes. Search. Please. You won't find anything else. Because I didn't do this. While the officers began a methodical search, Rivera stayed with me. You said set up. Who would do that? And why? This was my cue. I looked down, as if struggling. My family were not getting along. There's a lot of money involved. A trust fund. I'm set to inherit soon. They've been under financial pressure. My father, Richard Walker. Rivera's face remained neutral, but I saw the flicker of recognition at the name. Go on. After the heist at their house, things got worse. They've been implying I might be unstable. My fiancé vanished. And now this? I gestured to the drugs. It feels like a campaign. To discredit me. To make me look like an addict. A criminal. So I'm not a reliable person. So I can't control my own money. I was paraphrasing the truth, making it sound like a paranoid deduction, not a confirmed fact. That's a heavy accusation, Rivera said, his voice low. I'm not accusing. I'm just telling you what it feels like. And then there's this. I reached slowly for my laptop on the table. May I? I want to show you something. I got an email this morning. It scared me. He nodded cautiously. I opened the laptop, waking it to a pre-prepared screen. It showed an email, apparently from an anonymous remailer, with the subject line, a warning. The body read, "Your family isn't playing fair. They've arranged a surprise for you with the police. A gift in the hall. Smile for the cameras. Liam and Wraith had crafted it in the night. Backdated. Untraceable." Rivera read it, his jaw tightening. Why didn't you lead with this? I was afraid you'd think I wrote it myself. It sounds crazy. I was crying now. Real tears of frustration and fear. But then I heard the noise in the hall. And you showed up. And you found that bag. It's the surprise. Isn't it? Just then, the female officer emerged from my bedroom. Detective, you need to see this. Her voice was tense. Rivera stood. Stay here. He followed her into my bedroom. I could hear their muffled voices, taped under the nightstand, blatant. A moment later, Rivera came out, holding another, smaller bag of white powder. His face was a storm. Care to explain this? Ms. Walker? Found taped under your bedside table. Seems your anonymous tipster knows your apartment pretty well. They planted a second stash inside. The plan was evolving. They weren't taking chances. My blood went cold. This wasn't in the script. I didn't put it there. I insisted. My panic no longer an act. Someone must have gotten in. They have a key. My family. They could have. Everyone. Freeze. Rivera's voice cut through the room. He was looking at the second bag, then at the first, his mind working. Jenkins. Secure both exhibits. Separate evidence bags. Full chain of custody. He turned back to me, his gaze piercing. Ms. Walker, this email, the timing, the specific warning about a gift in the hall. It's very specific, almost like a script. He was suspecting meth staging this. The plan was backfiring. My burner phone, buried under a couch cushion, vibrated with a prearranged signal. Liam's Hail Mary. I had to get to it. I need a glass of water, I said, my voice cracking. I stood on shaky legs and walked to the kitchen, putting the breakfast bar between me and Rivera. As I filled a glass, I let my hand accidentally brush the cushion. The burner tumbled onto the floor. Damn it, I muttered, bending to pick it up. A cheap, prepaid flip phone. Rivera's eyes locked onto it. What's that? A burner phone, I said, holding it up. I bought it after my fiancé disappeared. I've been getting strange calls on my regular phone. I was scared. I'm only giving this number to a few people. It was a weak cover, but it was all I had. As if on cue, the burner phone rang in my hand. The shrill tone jarring in the tense room. The screen said restricted. Liam's signal. Rivera held out his hand. Answer it. Put it on speaker. I did. My thumb slippery with sweat. Amanda? It was a woman's voice. Distorted. Electronic. Sophie. Using a voice modulator Liam had provided. It's happening now. Isn't it? The police are there. I'm so sorry. I heard him on the phone last night. He paid a guy from the Bronx. The stuff was supposed to be in the hall closet and taped under your bed. He said that would be enough. He's gone crazy. Please, be careful. The line went dead. The room was utterly silent. Rivera stared at the phone, then at the 2 bags of cocaine, then at me, the anonymous email, the warning call, the precisely located drugs. The narrative shifted. It was no longer a shaky girl facing possession charges. It was the blueprint of a frame-up, delivered in real time. Who was that? Rivera asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I don't know. A friend. Someone who knows something? I was genuinely stunned. Sophie's involvement. The specific details under the BED. IT was a huge, terrifying risk for her. Rivera pulled out his own phone. Dialed. This is Rivera. I need a forensics team at 220 West 12th, apartment 12B. Now. And run a check for any recent reports or investigations involving a Richard Walker or Jason Walker. Dig deep. Financials, associations, everything. And get me a warrant for their phone records. Today. He listened, then snapped. I don't care what their name is. Get it done. He ended the call and looked at me. The professional detachment was gone, replaced by a cold, focused anger. You're not under arrest, Ms. Walker, but you're not to leave the city. We're going to have a very long talk, and you're going to tell me everything, starting with who that caller really is, and where I can find the man from the Bronx who made a delivery here last night. The trap had been sprung, but the prey was no longer me. The police were now on the hunt, and they were looking squarely at my father and brother. The script had been flipped. As Detective Rivera began firing questions, I knew the next move was theirs, and for the first time, they'd be playing defense. The interrogation room at the 19th precinct was a sterile, claustrophobic box. I sat across from Detective Rivera and an assistant district attorney named Chin. The air hummed with tension and the faint smell of stale coffee. Let's go over it again. From the top, Chin said, her voice calm but relentless. She had the digital files from Marcus's drive open on a laptop between us. The audio icon for a file labeled Walker _ 12-15 was highlighted. We've been over it, I said, my voice steady. I was past exhaustion, running on a clear current of resolve. My father, Richard Walker, hired Marcus Thorne, that real name unknown, to manipulate me into a position where I could be declared incompetent, allowing them to seize control of my trust fund. When his financial situation grew more desperate, they escalated. They staged the sapphire theft to collect insurance and further discredit me. When I began to fight back legally, they plotted to plant drugs in my home to have me arrested and discredited. And you have proof of this, escalation? Chen asked. Play the file, I said, nodding at the laptop. The one from December 15th. Chen clicked play. The tinny, digital audio filled the room. Richard's voice. The timeline is compressing. Jason. The Corinthian people aren't patient men. Jason's voice that we need a definitive event. The theft allegation is good, but it's not enough for a forced committal. We need something that screams immediate danger to herself or others. Richard, your suggestion? Jason, a long pause. Then lower an accident. A single car incident. No messy trial. No ongoing scrutiny. The trust reverts to the estate. Cleaner. Richard, no sound for 3 full seconds. Explore the feasibility. Get me a cost-benefit analysis, but keep it theoretical. For now, the recording stopped. The silence in the interrogation room was absolute. That's my brother, I said into the quiet, discussing the feasibility of my murder, and my father, authorizing the analysis. Rivera's jaw was tight. And the woman who called the burner phone during our visit? The one who knew about the drugs under the bed? My sister-in-law, Sophie Walker. She was present for some of these conversations. She's terrified. She's pregnant. I believe she wants out. Chun exchanged a look with Rivera. We've brought Mrs. Walker in for a separate interview. She's cooperating, hesitantly, but she's confirming the broad strokes, but the financial panic, the pressure on Amanda, Jason's dark moods, and overhearing discussions about taking care of the Amanda problem. She also provided the key code for the back gate, which matches the access log for the night of the staged burglary. The net was closing. I could feel it. The physical evidence is circumstantial. Chun continued, but powerful. The Corinthian loan documents you photographed show powerful motive. The MT profile folder shows premeditation. The audio recordings are the linchpin. We've traced the shell corporation that made the initial payment to Thorne. It's linked to a holding company your father controls. What about Marcus? I asked. Abolo is out for his alias, Michael Stone. Rivera said, but he's a ghost. Your testimony and these recordings are enough to proceed without him. He's a tool. We want the hands that wielded it. There was a sharp knock on the door. Another detective leaned in. Sir, they're here. Both of them. With lawyers. They're demanding to see their daughter and know why they're being harassed. Rivera stood. Time for the main event. He looked at me. You don't have to see them. You can watch from the observation room. No, I said, standing as well. My legs felt weak, but my spine was steel. I'll see them. They put us in a larger, equally bleak room. My father, my mother, and Jason sat on one side of a long table, flanked by 2 expensively suited lawyers who looked like they'd just stepped off a Wall Street trading floor. I sat on the other side, with Rivera and Chen. Sophie was not there. She was in protective custody, being debriefed. My father looked older, the lines on his face etched deep with fury, not age. His eyes, when they met mine, held nothing but contempt. My mother was pale, clutching a handkerchief, her gaze darting everywhere but at me. Jason just looked sullen and trapped, a cornered animal. This is an outrageous fishing expedition. My father's lawyer, a man named Blackwell, began immediately. You have detained my clients based on the hysterical allegations of a clearly disturbed young woman. We demand her immediate psychiatric evaluation and the termination of this harassment. We're not here to debate Ms. Walker's state of mind, Chin said coolly. We're here to discuss conspiracy to commit fraud, insurance fraud, filing a false police report, witness intimidation, and solicitation of murder. The word murder landed like a physical blow in the room. My mother gasped. Jason flinched. My father's face went stony. Preposterous. Blackwell snapped. You have no evidence of any such thing. We have audio recordings. Rivera said, his voice flat, of Mr. Richard Walker and Mr. Jason Walker discussing the staged theft of the Walker Blues, of plotting to have Amanda declared incompetent, and of a specific conversation on December 15th, where the murder of Amanda Walker was discussed as a cleaner alternative. For the first time, my father's composure cracked. A vein pulsed in his temple. Fabrications, digital forgeries, that criminal she was involved with. Were you aware, Chin interrupted, that your hired operative, Marcus Thorne, recorded every phone call and meeting? For his own protection, he's provided us with a comprehensive file. The digital forensics team has verified their authenticity. The voices are yours. My mother began to weep silently. Jason stared at the table, his shoulders hunched. Furthermore, Chun continued, we have the testimony of Sophie Walker, who confirms the financial distress of Walker Capital Holdings, the pressure applied to Amanda, and her overhearing of key conversations, including the one regarding the accident. She has also provided evidence that she was instructed by Jason Walker to make anonymous calls to the press to plant stories about Amanda's instability. Jason's head snapped up. She's lying. That bitch is lying to save herself. Jason, shut up. My father growled. But the foundation was crumbling. We also have the individual arrested for the drug delivery to Amanda's apartment. Rivera added, he's singing. The payment wire leads directly to a shell company managed by your son's venture capital firm. Blackwell was frantically scribbling notes, but the bluster was gone. The other lawyer looked ill. I finally spoke, my voice cutting through the chaos. Why? All eyes turned to me. My father's gaze was pure, unadulterated hatred. You were always weak, sentimental, a liability. The money was never yours. It was family money. It belonged to the legacy. You were going to waste it, or let that gold digger take it. We were preserving what your grandfather built. By destroying me? The question hung in the air. By managing an asset? He shouted, slamming a fist on the table. Rivera placed a warning hand on his arm. You were a problem that needed a solution. A business decision. A business decision. My life. My mind. My freedom. I looked at my mother. And you? Was it a business decision for you too? She couldn't meet my eyes. I tried to warn you to leave that night. I couldn't stop them, but the plan, it was for the good of the family. You would have been cared for. In a padded cell. I finished for her. There was nothing left to say. Chin stood. Richard Walker. Jason Walker. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. Insurance fraud. Criminal solicitation. Attempted framing. And conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. The Miranda rights washed over the room. A surreal, legalistic drone. As Rivera moved to cuff my father, he turned to me one last time. You think you've won? You've destroyed your family. You have nothing. No one. You're alone. I held his gaze, the last thread of fear finally snapping. I was alone the moment you decided I was a line item on a balance sheet. Now, I'm free. They were let out. My brother in tears of rage. My father stiff with defiance. My mother a broken ghost. In the following days, the storm broke. The news was a frenzied circus. Walker dynasty implodes. Financier. Son plot heiress daughter's downfall. The Sapphire insurance claim was frozen, then denied. The trust fund's independent overseers, armed with the police findings and Eleanor Vance's petitions, immediately suspended my parents' roles and froze all assets pending litigation. Sophie, through her lawyer, filed for divorce and full custody, citing emotional abuse and her husband's criminal conduct. She became a state's witness. Marcus was never found. a ghost, gone to ground. I didn't care. His part in my story was over. I stood on the balcony of a temporary apartment, paid for with the last of the money for my grandmother's diamonds. The city glittered. Indifferent, the legal battles would drag on for years. The civil suits, the bankruptcy proceedings for Walker Capital, the custody fight. I would be a witness, a plaintiff, a subject of endless headlines. But I was not a victim. Not anymore. I touched the single remaining piece of the Walker Rose set I'd kept, a small diamond pendant, not for its value, as a reminder of the independence my grandmother intended, of the price I had paid for it. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, probably a reporter. I ignored it. I looked out at the sprawling, unforgiving city. I had no family. I had a future shrouded in legal fog and public notoriety. But it was my future, forged in betrayal, paid for in tears, but mine to shape. The performance was finally over. The curtain had fallen on the Walkers. The stage was now empty, waiting, and for the first time in my life, I was the only one standing on it.